Hi, this is Andrew. Thanks for joining me. This video covers user accounts and permissions in Ubuntu. So we're going to start out by looking at some user accounts. And if I do, I'll do cat, and the place where these accounts are stored is called the Etsy password file. And in here, I have a few accounts, including the one I created called Andrew. That's what I'm logged in as right now. And there are other accounts, but each thing in here means something. Not going to go into detail with that right now, and we'll see when I create a couple of accounts what happens in here. So the other file I want to look at is called Shadow. We have a password file, and that file doesn't have passwords. So if we go into the same location, etc., and I look at Shadow, I see a file exists there, tab complete work, but it doesn't let me access it. Why I can't, we'll look at in a little bit, but I'll just use sudo to access it, because sudo will let me do anything. And now I see these accounts in here, including my Andrew account, and there's something very long and weird after that, and that's actually a hashed version of my password. So it is the password run through a mathematical formula that will always produce the same length of results. That's what a hash is. There are other things going on there, but this is the file. This is the file that contains that. And I don't have any other real accounts on here. These are all system accounts, so we don't see any other passwords. So let's create some new accounts. I'm going to use add user, and I'm going to create user 1. And it's not going to let me. I need to be root. So sudo add user, user 1. Now it's asking for a password. I'm going to use password. All lowercases. Now if I put a name here, it would show up in that list. I will just hit enter on that. Room number, again, it shows up in the password file. Work phone. I'm just going to skip through all of those by hitting enter. Is everything correct? Yes is the default, but I'm going to hit yes anyway. And now I've created the account. Let's repeat the account and create a user 2 with password, password. Everything's good there. Now, I want to look at these accounts. I want to see them again. So I'm going to do the up arrow a couple of times, get back to Etsy password. Now I have these two new accounts here. I have my Andrew account I'm using, and I have user 1 and user 2 are created. There's, again, a lot of information in there. We're not going to worry about the details of those yet, like what the numbers mean and everything. But now let's look at the Shadow account. And I created these two user accounts. I created them with the same password. And as you can notice, it doesn't use the same hash. We'll get into that another time, perhaps. But that is important for security. If I could create another account with the same password, I would be able to easily figure out what passwords are. If I created another account with the same password and it displayed the same in this file. Now, the next question is, why do I need sudo to see password, but not to see shadow, but not password? Well, let's look at permissions, and I can do ls-la. I'm going to do it on etc, and there's going to be a lot there that there's more there than I want to see. So I'm going to do that on just the password file, and I'm going to repeat it on the shadow file. And if you look at this, we have read write, read, read, and then read write, read, and nothing. What that is saying is that the root account owns this. We'll see how we can change that in a little bit. The root account and the root group owns the password file. The root account and the shadow group own the shadow file. And the permissions here are saying that the First is the owner of the file. Read write. That means root can read and write this file, but no one else can. In the password file, the root group can just read, and then everyone else on the computer can read this file as well. And that's important for a lot of functionality in Linux. You can't eliminate this read. So that's why they moved the passwords to the shadow file, and here root can read and write, and which is why I was able to create the account, because it reads and writes to both password and shadow. This shadow group right here, the group called shadow, can read this file, and there are 3 marks there: read, write, and the last one is for execute. And then the third batch is for everyone, and you see they're all turned off. That means no one can read those. No one who's not in the groups, no one who's not the root account or in the shadow group, which is me. The Andrew account doesn't have any permissions on the system, so I can't read the shadow account, and that's why I got an error message when I tried to. Okay, clear things, and now let's look at permissions from what we can do with them to change them. I don't want to change permissions on password or shadow. Those are system important files. I want to create my own file, and I'm actually going to create it in my I'm going to start by creating a directory for testing things. So I'm going to call sudo make_dir test, and if I do ls-la I'll see that test directory. Because I created it as sudo, it's owned by root, and it has all of these permissions on it: read, write, and execute, read and execute for the group, read and execute for anyone. And what that does, read and execute, allows people to access the directory structure. So I'm going to cd into test, and I'm doing this as Andrew. Now I don't have write, so if I do touch test file, permission denied. So what I'm going to do is actually change permissions. Now you see there are 3 batches of 3 things, and if you think of these as 4, 2, 1, each one can be represented by a number between 0 and 7. If read, write, execute is turned on, that means 4 plus 2 plus 1 is 7. If it is just read and execute, that is 5. That's 4 plus nothing for the 2 spot plus 1 is 5, and again 5. So these permissions would be set as 755. Now if I wanted anyone on the computer to be able to open it, I can change the permissions to be using the chmod command, and I can change them to, and I need sudo because chmod test, but I want to set 777. Now if I do the ls-la, test has read, write, execute, read, write, execute, and read, write, execute. So that means Andrew, being a member of the everyone group, I can do touch test file, and it shows up here. Now if I do ls-la in here, I was able to create a file, and I am now the owner of that file. So test file is owned by me, and since I'm the owner, I can change permissions on it. Root can also change permissions on it using sudo. So if I wanted to change permissions again, so it is, in this case, it is 6, that's 4 plus 2 is 6 with no 1. 4 plus 2 is 6 with no 1, and 4. If I wanted to change it so anyone, user 1, could go in here and change this file, I can use the command chmod and change this to 666 on test file. And now I do ls-la again, and you see that W was added. So now I can change permissions. I can say this is who I want to be able to access this. And if I do sudo su user1. Now I'm logged in as user1. You can see that's right here. I'm still in the test directory. I didn't change anything. And if I wanted to do nano on test file, I can come in here and this is test file, and I can exit and save it because I have permissions on it. Because I am, user1 is a member of the everyone, the global group. So now I can exit out and I'm back as Andrew. And since Andrew is the owner of the file and the owner has read write, I could change your permissions on it, or I can actually just go in and say nano test file, and I have the text that I put in there, and I can say yes it is. Control X, yes. So I've just changed permissions on this file. Now let's say I wanted to change permissions back. I want the default permissions, chmod 664 on test file. Now if I do ls-la, I can see that the file is back where it was, read write, and read. Still, Andrew is an owner and in the owning group. What if I wanted to change that? I could say chown, and I'm going to say user1 test file. Now, it says changing ownership of test file, operation not permitted. You need to be sudo, you need to be root to do that. So put sudo in front of it. Now ls-la, and user1 is the owning account. But Andrew still shows up as the owning group. That's this second set of 3 characters. If I want it to be user1 and user1, I can do colon user1. I could even do user2 here. Now ls-la shows user1, user1. And that means as Andrew, even though I created that file, I'm no longer the owner of it. If I go in nano on test file, I get unwritable. I can't save this. And I do control X, save, yes, file, test file, permission denied. I could save it as in another place because I have read access, so I can save it anywhere else, but I can't save it with this, I can't update that file. So I'm going to do no on that. So I've just changed the permissions of that file, or I changed the permissions back, I changed ownership of that file. And if I am sudo, I can say, you know what, let's give, this file really should be Andrew's. So we'll do Andrew, and when we do ls-la, we're going to see Andrew is now the owner of it. We can change ownership of files as root. We can change permissions as files with root. Now, one other thing we can do that's interesting. Let's do chmod 000 test file. Now, we've just removed permissions for everyone. ls-la shows that there are no permissions on this file. I'm the owner of the file, so if I do cat test file, I can't get in there because the owner doesn't have any permissions. The owner has permissions to change permissions, or has the rights to change permissions. I can go in and change permissions, but I can't actually see it unless I do that. Now, if I do sudo cat test file, even with no permissions, root can always get in and see things and do things. Root can't be locked out of files like that. So root is able to get in and see the file. The owner is not. But as owner, I can say, you know what? I want to be able to see this, so I'm going to do chmod 600 test file. Now ls-la read write for the owner, and I should be able to open the file again. If I do up a couple times, cat test file, no sudo on that, again, I can see the file. So permissions are a critical piece to understand, and let's take a look at those the Etsy and password again. We looked at them earlier. Let's just one more look. ls-la on etc password. etc password. And we can see, we can understand a little more about what's going on. As root, I couldn't read and write this. So if I did nano on Etsy password, I can go in there and change things in a way that the computer might not like. It might not recognize those changes properly, might cause errors, but I can. And if I wanted to go in, if just by creating accounts, it updates those files. So the other side of it is I can do that with shadow. And now you really see why, as Andrew, I can't see what's in shadow, because there are no permissions for everyone, and I'm not part of either root or shadow. So, or I'm not root and I'm not part of shadow. So I'm not able to see that file as myself. If I do cat etc shadow, I can see that it exists, but I can't actually go inside of it. That's where I need sudo rights, which gives me the permissions there. So that is a quick summary of permissions and ownership of files. This is one of those things to spend a lot of time working on changing. Create files, change them, look at what you're seeing, switch users using the su command. If you have root permissions, you can do sudo su and change to user 1, user 2, any other accounts that you have on your system. It really takes playing around to get a good understanding of this. So that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.